Well, the coronavirus outbreak is not just an issue when it comes to health, but also it's an economic one. And we have seen stocks sink due to the spread, and that means that your investments could be impacted, including your retirement plan. And joining us to explain how the virus is impacting your money is certified financial planner Cole Mills from Bridgetown Wealth Management. Thanks so much for coming in.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I was telling you I checked my 401k today, and that was not a good idea.
Yeah, I think a few people might have done that over the weekend.
Yeah, and so explain what's happening and why the coronavirus is really impacting what we're seeing on the financial side.
Well, I think the biggest thing it comes down to is people, especially in the markets, when the markets are moving up or down, what they're really mostly looking for is certainty. They, one of those things is, we hear that adage, no news is good news, and that is not necessarily the case inside of Wall Street. What they are looking for is as much predictive behavior as possible.
Yeah.
And this is a classic one of those unknown unmeasurables. And so what it does create is an environment by which markets do sell off. And, unfortunately, sometimes when in my world, the rises can be somewhat gradual and the falls can be somewhat sharp. And so I think it's the kind of thing that we all do this by nature. I do this by nature. I looked at my 401k over the weekend too, and had to take that collective deep breath and say, okay, everything's going to be okay. But I think for everybody, you do have to step back and take a deep breath. Most people's portfolios don't look like what the overall stock market looks like. Underneath that underlying stock market is a lot of different things. When people say the market, they're talking about stocks predominantly. And most people's 401ks have a mix of stocks and bonds and cash and different things inside of their portfolios. So they should not be experiencing quite as much volatility as the overall market has felt. That being said, it's an appropriate time, absolutely, to be reaching out to your financial planner and asking questions and just making sure that your personal risk tolerance still makes sense for your situation.
Right. Well, if we can, because we're continuing to see this, more cases throughout the U.S., so the uncertainty seems like it will continue. So, what is it? Are there things that people can do to protect the money that's in there?
That's a great question, and I do think the uncertainty will continue for the for at least the foreseeable. And with that, I think that what I try to tell clients is, control the things that you can control, which are predominantly how we spend our money and what we do inside of those portfolios. Is it an appropriate time to now go and sell a bunch of those investments that have had a rough week last week? Probably not, but everybody's situation is unique, and that's why I say you do have to step back and say, what are the things that I can control in my own situation? And mostly that's things around your cash flow. Is it an appropriate time to make big financial decisions? You might want to, step back on those for a couple of, maybe even up to a couple of weeks, but you should step back and have that conversation with your financial planner and try to figure out what are the logical next steps for you.
Yeah, if things are low, is it a good time to buy then?
Again, that's a circumstantial thing. I mean, there are absolutely some people that are going to take advantage of this volatility and they're going to take advantage of this dip. We have been on an incredibly historic upswinging market. We're in year 10 of a predominantly upswinging market, and so that's also important, right? If coming off of last year where the market had a really good year, you do have to take a kind of a deep breath and say, okay, this last week was rough, no question about it. But if you look at it with a little longer lens, it is a short drop against a really long rise.
Hopefully we'll bounce back. Well, Cole, thank you so much for coming in and
trying
to reassure people like myself who made that mistake to look at my 401k.
We all do it. We all do it.
Hey, you can find more information on the coronavirus on KOIN.com. We also have a timeline of the virus, the latest numbers, and more resources, including tips on staying healthy.